In today's class, we'll be looking at what is JavaFX. I've just mentioned this as an introduction, as JavaFX itself is a very big concept. We're just going to take a look at the basics that will help us to build an application. First of all, what is JavaFX? JavaFX is nothing but a set of graphics and media packages that help us to build applications. You can build a lot of different kinds of applications ranging from desktop, mobile and web-based applications using JavaFX. And these applications operate consistently across diverse platforms. So what I can build with JavaFX, this is what I was explaining you. You can build network aware applications that are deployed across multiple platforms and display information in a high performance modern user interface that features audio, video, graphics and animation. So this is what you mean by rich client applications, wherein you can include a lot of high performance modern user interface features that has audio, video, graphics and animations. Let's take a small demo on a simple application written in JavaFX. So let me show you this demo. So this is a very small simple calculator application that was coded by some of my students. Let me run this. Just to get a feel of what we are going to achieve in the coming classes. So this is an application. You can see this is a GUI based application, and you have certain controls here, and it's a calculator application. You can enter some data here, say 3 and 2, and then if you want to add, you get the result set in this label here. And you also have a button here. When I click, there are certain activities happening. Say the text is getting cleared. So you can perform a set of simple operations. It simulates a calculator here. So 4, 2, and then if you multiply, you get 8. So this kind of an application you can build using JavaFX. This is a very basic application. You can use a lot of features like animations. You can add video, audio, and other features that any modern application has got. So that's what we are going to see. By using JavaFX, we are going to build GUI based rich applications. So what you have to do when you're going to code in JavaFX, what are the steps? What are the initial steps? You have to import javafx.application.application. So every JavaFX application should import this class, and you have to inherit the application class in your code, and you have to override the start method in your application class. So let me just show you a steps. Say if I have to start a JavaFX application, what I have to do is I have to import javafx.application.application. So this is the first step for any JavaFX application. You have to import javafx.application.application, and your class should inherit this application class. So how will you inherit? It's extends application. So that's how you inherit the application class. And once when you inherit this application class, there is a method called start in this application class, which you should override here. Say let me add that unimplemented methods from my application class. So this is the start method which is available in the application class. If you just go and take a look at the source code of application, you can very well find the start method there. So this is the abstract start method inside our application class, which we are inheriting in our class, and then we have to override whatever that is abstract in this class, that is the start method. So these are the 3 basic steps that we have to have when we are starting off with a JavaFX application. I hope you are clear with this. And the very important thing is, every JavaFX application will be launched, will be started using this method called launch. So again, launch should be called from within your public static void main method, and this launch method is again part of your application class. If you just go and take a look at that, so this is where public static void launch comes in. So launch is a standalone application. This method is typically called from the main method, and it must be called only once. You have to call only once, and this method will actually launch your application. So that is the thing, and this is another very important step. You code your entire application and then you're going to launch it by calling launch, which is part of the application class. So we have finished our basic steps. Let's look at what we have to do further. So this is what I told you. We have to import JavaFX application.application, and we have to extend application in our class, and we have to override the start method in the application class. We need to understand the following concepts to build any basic JavaFX application. So we need to understand what is a stage, what is a layout, what is a scene, what are controls and events. We'll start with what is a control. Control is nothing but a set of objects. For instance, you can see this button here. This comes under a control. Text fields, labels, and text areas. So all these objects come under controls. So we'll be having a separate session on controls. We'll be looking in depth on how to create controls, how to manipulate the properties of a control in JavaFX. But the controls form the basic and the most fundamental unit in a JavaFX application. So you can see that in this application, a user interacts with the application using the controls, and the controls are added to a layout. So the definition for layout is within the term itself. What is the layout? We are taking all these controls and arranging them on some format, following some format on the screen, right? Okay, we can take the controls, we can put them in one single row, or else we can take all the controls, we can put them in a single column. So that becomes a layout. So are we going to arrange the controls in a row, or are we going to arrange them in a column, or are we going to arrange them in the form of a grid? So that comes under a layout. So we define the layout for our controls. So here you can think that this layout is like that of a grid. So we are arranging the controls in the form of a grid. So in this grid, you can say we have some rows and columns, something like that. I'm just giving an example here. So this is row 1, column 0, column 1, like that. So we are arranging our controls in the form of a grid, and that is called a layout. So we are giving some layout to our controls. After putting them in a layout, we have to add them to a scene. So a layout is added to a scene, and this scene is added to a stage. So what is a stage? This window you are seeing here, small calculator, this title is given to the stage. So this entire window, the outside window you are seeing, that is the stage. Whereas a scene gets added to the stage and the layout gets added to the scene. And a stage can contain several scenes. So it is like this. So let me draw that here. That is, first you take the controls. What are controls? Buttons, text fields, text area, labels, everything comes under a control. And then you define the layout for your controls, how these controls should be arranged. And then you add these, and then you add this layout to a scene. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to add this scene to a stage. So a stage holds a scene, a stage can hold many scenes, and a scene holds a layout. and a layout holds all the controls. What do you mean by an event here? Say what activity should be carried out when I perform something in my form. For instance, if I click on clear, an event gets triggered. So these are event handlers. So when I click on clear, these event handlers will go and clear the text in my text fields. So there is an event behind any button. So that is what an event handler does, and it is associated with the task performed by the user by clicking or by dragging. No, the user can perform various tasks, and events are associated with the tasks performed by the users. So let's take a small demo. What we'll do is we'll take this control, we'll take a button, we'll add this to a layout, and then we'll add this to a scene. We'll add the layout to a scene, and then we'll add the scene to a stage, and then we'll show this stage. We'll see how this stage looks. So this will give you some clear understanding of what we have learned in the previous slide. The very first thing is let me add a control. Here the control is a button. So button is an object here. So we'll go and create an object like this. Button, I'll call this bt1 is equal to new button. So when you're adding all these objects, you need to go and import. So that's why I'm getting this message here, import button. So all these controls are part of this package JavaFX scene.control. So import that. And for my button, I can give an text to like click me. So this is the text displayed on the button. So we have added a control. Now what is the next stage? We need to define the layout. What is this layout? Say for instance, I want to arrange this button in a row. So I can go with HBox. HBox, I'll call this root is equal to new HBox. So again, we'll be having a separate session on layouts. For now, let's understand HBox to be horizontal box, and we are putting all our controls in a row. That's it. So we have to import certain packages here, that is import HBox JavaFX scene.layout. We'll import this. Our layout is defined. Next, what we need to do? We need to add our control, that is the button that we have here, to our layout. It's nothing but layout name, that is root dot get children dot add node. So here the node is button 1. So we have added this button 1 to our layout that is defined as root. Next thing is we need to add this layout to a scene. So what is this scene? Let's create a scene object here. Scene SE is equal to new scene, and what scene takes out is the layout. And again we have to import some packages, that is we'll import javafx.scene. The next step is we need to add this scene to a stage. So stage is that window we have seen, and primary stage gets created by default for an application. We can have many stages, but we'll have this primary stage. We'll utilize this primary stage. So I will just do primary stage dot set scene. So for this we have to pass our scene, that is SE. So that's how we map a scene to this stage. And then we have to show this stage, that is primary stage dot show. A very simple demo here. So what we have done here is we have taken a control, we have defined the layout, and we have added that particular control, the button, to our layout, and then we have created a scene, mapped our layout to that scene, and then we have taken the primary stage, the default stage, and we have set the scene as whatever scene we have created, and finally we are displaying that stage. Let's go and run this application. Let's see how it looks. So this is what we have created. So this is the stage, and inside this stage you have this control. Actually this control is mapped to a layout, and that layout is mapped to a scene, and finally that scene is mapped to our stage. So we have just finished our first JavaFX application. So I have also pasted the code here for your reference. So now let us take a look at some of the stage methods. So I have given some of the stage methods here. I have mentioned this to be the primary stage. Actually it is nothing but stage. For any stage we'll have all these methods. What is stage.show? We have seen that with our example. It shows the stage to the user. And dot set scene, and this is the scene name. This is from a previous example. So we are mapping a scene to our stage, that is set scene. That is the use of this method, set scene. We'll take a look at the other methods: set title, set width, set height, get width, get height, and set full screen. This is a boolean method, is full screen, and dot close. We'll see all these things with certain examples now. Let's take our own example. Say when we run this, what happens? So you're getting a window like this, and you want to have this to be of different size. Instead of like this, you want to have it like this. You can go and set the height and width for our stage, which we can very well perform. So let me show you how to set the height and width for a stage. So it is a primary stage dot set width. I'll just give the width to be 500, and primary stage dot set height again to be 500. Now you'll see the difference when I run this application. You'll see how it differs. Now we have set some height and width when our stage starts. So this is a stage with height 500 and width 500. So you can very well set the dimensions for your stage. We can also set a title for our stage. Let me show you how to do that. So it is primary stage dot set title. I can say Satish CJ stage, some blunt title I'm giving here. It's fine. Let's go and again run this. Let's see what is the title set to our stage. So now you can see the title appearing here. So we have put up a width and a height, and also we have given a title. We can also make the stage appear in full screen when it starts. For instance, let me comment this out, and primary stage dot set full screen, and then I'll say true. So when we show the stage, we set that to be in the full screen mode. Let's run this. Yeah, now our stage is in the full screen mode. Let's escape to exit full screen mode. Let me close all the other forms that we have run. What are the methods we have say we have seen what is set title, we have seen set width, set height, and obviously when you have set width, set height, we can also get width and get height. We can get the properties of a stage, and we have seen how to set that to be in the full screen mode. And is full screen is a boolean. Say if you have set stage to be in the full screen mode, is full screen will return true. We can also close the stage. So let's see how to close the stage. So I'm performing primary stage dot show. I can also go with primary stage dot close. So it's just going to appear and disappear because we just say show and then we close, right? So it's going to appear and disappear. Yeah, you'll not be able to see that too. So that's the use of close. So these are some of the methods in the stage class, and you have other methods too which you can go and explore it on your own. But these are some of the primary methods that we'll be using. We'll take a look at layouts now. What do you mean by a layout? I told you you have these controls, right? Controls can be buttons, text fields, text area, labels, anything. Say suppose let us say we have 3 buttons. How we are going to arrange these 3 buttons, that comes under the layout. So we have different types of layouts. We'll take a look at all these layouts one by one. We'll take a look at HBox, then we take a look at VBox, Stackpane, Flowpane, Gridpane and Borderpane. So we have to understand layouts so that we can organize our controls in a proper way on the scene. Let's go and start understanding each of these layouts, and even before going into that, let's take a look at some of the layouts. Say this is HBox layout. What do you mean by an HBox layout? We are just going to take all the controls and arrange them in a single row. Say, so we put everything in a row. So that is called HBox or horizontal box. The next thing we have is a VBox. By this time you would have guessed what is a VBox. It's an vertical box. What is a vertical box? You take all the controls and arrange them in a vertical fashion in a column mode. You put all the controls in a column like this. So that becomes your VBox layout. Stackpane is a layout wherein you put one control on top of another control. For instance, I have one big button, and on top of this I can put another button. On top of this I can put another button. So it becomes like a stack structure. So that's what is shown here, a big button, and on top of that I have put another button. So when I use Stackpane layout, it's arranged in the form of a stack, all the controls on top of each other. Let's take a look at what is Flowpane layout. In Flowpane layout, we are going to arrange them in terms of rows like this. See, it's flexible, it wraps around. For instance, when the screen is like this, it's arranged like this. When you shorten the size of the screen, it automatically wraps around and comes to a format like this. So you'll be understanding Flowpane when we see this demo. What is a Gridpane? Gridpane is nothing but you put everything in rows and columns in the form of a grid. Say this is row 0 and this is column 1, column 0, column 1, column 2. This is row 1, again column 0, column 1, column 2. So entire thing is put in terms of a grid. Your controls are arranged in the form of a grid. That is called a Gridpane. Say again, here this is in row 0 column 0, this is in row 1 column 1, this is in row 3 row 2 column 2, and I have also displayed the grid lines. So these are the grid lines, and you can see the Gridpane structure here. Again, in Gridpane we have something called H gap and V gap. What do you mean by H gap and V gap? H gap is the horizontal gap between the controls. V gap is the vertical gap between the controls. The next form of layout is the border pane. What we are going to do in border pane is we are going to set elements like this. Say we take the control and then we are going to assign it at the top, on the left, on the right, on the bottom. So we have certain methods for that. So bottom will push that to the bottom. Set center will put that element in the center. Set left, set right, and set top. So that is the border pane. So these are some of the layouts available in JavaFX, and we'll be looking at these layouts with a simple demo now. So to understand these layouts, I'm just going to increase the number of buttons we'll have here. Let me go with 12 buttons. Just copy paste. So let's rename button 1 to button 2 here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So let's have some 13 buttons. We are going to add all these 13 buttons to our HBox. What is this layout? Horizontal box. Let's see how HBox behaves. So will you add buttons to a layout? We are just going to do this again. So that's how you add. So let's say this is button 2, button 3, button 4, button 5, button 6, button 7, button 8, button 9, button 10, button 11, button 12, and button 13. So we have added our 13 buttons to the layout, and the remaining things are the same. So this layout gets added to the scene, and that scene gets added to a stage. We will comment this full screen mode. We'll have stage to be having a width and height of 500. So what is HBox? HBox is an horizontal box layout. It just puts everything in a row. Let me run this and show you. Again, the problem here is we should not close our stage. Let's delete that. Let's run this again. So you see here, this is the HBox layout. As I told you, everything will be arranged in a row format. So all the controls you are going to give will be in a row. That's it. So that's how it is visible to the user. Now let us take a look at what is a VBox. You know what is VBox by now. It is vertical box or vertical alignment. So it is VBox root is equal to VBox. So again, when you add VBox, you have to import certain packages here. Let's import that. So let's see the difference, how VBox differs from HBox. So this is VBox. It's vertical alignment. So you see all the controls now in a vertical alignment. And we also have VBox.set spacing. Let me tell you, root.set spacing, and then you give 20. So what it does is it just adds some space. Let me run this one and you'll see the difference. For HBox and VBox, you have a dot set spacing too. So you see there is a spacing between each of the controls, and the spacing was set to a value of 20. Like that, even in HBox you can have dot set spacing. Okay, so we have understood VBox and HBox. Now let us understand what is a Flowpane. We'll see what is a Flowpane. For that, let me go and delete this set spacing, and let's go to HBox again, so that we understand what is Flowpane in a proper method. Let's run our code. Say when it is HBox, everything is arranged in a row, right? So this is like this. Say when I reduce the size of the screen, it's not getting rearranged. So it's shown like this to the user. But when I go to a Flowpane, let me change this to another layout, that is Flowpane. Again, we need to import some packages here. So when I use a Flowpane, what is the difference? Let's go and take a look at that. A Flowpane offers you this wraparound feature. For instance, if I reduce the size, you can see it arranges accordingly. If I increase the size, again it's rearranged accordingly. So this wraparound facility is available in a Flowpane. You might have understood what is the difference between a Flowpane and a VBox or an HBox layout now. Let's take a look at another form of layout, that is the grid layout. What is this Gridpane layout? So let me change Flowpane to Gridpane. And we need to import certain packages here. Let's import that. And instead of having all these 13 buttons, let me take just 3 buttons for simplicity. And how we are going to add elements to a Gridpane is little different. I'll show you how to add all these buttons to my Gridpane. It's nothing but root dot add. So we're going to add a node. Say what is this node? Button 1 we're going to add. We're going to give the column and row index. Say if we're going to add button 1 in column 0, row 0. So button 1 is in column 0 and row 0. Likewise, I can go and add another button, root dot add. Now I'll add button 2. Where will I add this button 2? In column 1 and row 1. Likewise, I can add another button, root dot add. I can add button 2 or button 3 in column 2 and row 2. So we can just add elements in rows and columns in the form of a grid when we are using a Gridpane. Let's see what will be the output here. So this is the output. This is row 0 column 0, row 1 column 1 and row 2 column 2. And you can also make the grid lines visible. So I'll show you how to make this grid lines visible. Root dot set grid lines visible to be true. So this will show you the grid lines too. Let's go and take a look at it. Okay, so this is what you call to be a Gridpane. Again, in a Gridpane you can go and set h gap and v gap. So root dot set h gap, I'll give 20, and root dot set v gap, I'll give this to be 20. So what is h gap and v gap here? It's just going to add some spaces between the controls in the form. So you see here, now there is a gap between two elements in a row and also gap between two elements in a column. So this is v gap, this is h gap. We're given a value of 20. So that's about a Gridpane. The next thing we're going to take a look at is Borderpane. Borderpane root is equal to new Borderpane. And in Borderpane we have certain methods. How you add elements to your layout is just like this. Let's root dot set bottom. So this will add a node to the bottom. We have one more method like root dot set center button 2. So you're just going to use these methods: set bottom, set right, set left, set center. We'll see how our layout changes now. So we have added one button to the bottom and another button to the center. So this is at the center and this is at the bottom. So you can utilize the methods for this Borderpane class and position your controls wherever you want that to be on the stage. So that's about our layouts. I hope you all have understood all the concepts that we have discussed in today's class. What is JavaFX and what kind of applications we can build with JavaFX? What are the basic steps we have to focus on when we create a JavaFX application? And we looked at some of the important elements in a JavaFX application: stage, controls, layouts, events, and scene. Next, we went in for a small demo on JavaFX application, and then we have looked into detail on what are the layouts. What layouts we have seen: HBox, VBox, Borderpane, Gridpane, and then we also looked at Flowpane. I hope you all have understood the differences between all these layouts. Thank you.